Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar called Making Live Events to an Engaging Virtual Experience. A warm welcome as well to our guest speakers. We are very grateful to you all for dedicating your time to share your knowledge with us this morning. This webinar aims to provide you with the tools required to adapt to the major changes occurring in the events industry and the new normal where live experiences have now become virtual. During this seminar, we will first delve into the key factors to consider when organizing an online event. We will then explore the effectiveness and efficiency of online and hybrid events. Afterwards, we will be discovering about transforming physical events to hybrid events. And finally, we will have a special bonus session on personal development for boosting work productivity. This webinar is organized and hosted by Domus Events, which is the leading event and exhibition specialist in the UAE. It was established in 1995 under the Domus Group. Domus Events is also the organizer of its own show, the famous Dubai Heli Show, which is a biannual international helicopter technology and operations exhibition. Domus Events has also successfully organized and managed events for the government and private sector. Additionally, Domus Events provides exceptional event management services by managing, organizing, and converting your physical events to hybrid and virtual events through its unique virtual platform. For those of you just joining us, please make yourself comfortable, and for your convenience, please check your speakers or headsets are working properly. The webinar will take approximately 1 hour and 30 minutes and will end around 12:30 p.m. UAE time. We'll be using English as our medium of language throughout the sessions. This is an interactive webinar, and we welcome the audience to interact, share insights, and ask questions during the webinar by typing in the chat box. We will address your questions during the question and answer at the end of each session. And some exciting news for you all. At the end of the webinar, we have some special prizes to be given away to 3 lucky winners who will be picked at random. These winners will be revealed at the end of the webinar, so please stay tuned. Without further ado, I welcome our first speaker for today, Vivien Hoe, who is a digital event strategist and virtual events coach joining us from Singapore. She will be sharing with us the key factors you need to consider when organizing an online event. Vivien is an event industry veteran with more than 30 years of experience and has produced both live events and digital events across Asia-Pacific region. Her industry knowledge and experience in both live and virtual environments make her a worthy podcasts and virtual conferences. As the host of all things about virtual events, each week she shares best practices, concepts, and interviews to empower fellow industry professionals on the future of events. Thank you for joining us today, Vivien. The space is yours.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Vivien, and welcome. I'm actually from Singapore, so I'm very privileged today to share with you a little bit more about how to actually convert from physical to live events. So I have some slides going on. Could the organizers please help me to share the slide? Otherwise, I have to do some. Yeah. So just great. Just give me a second. Okay. So what I'm going to share today is, can everyone see the slides? Okay. Like the title, going digital from physical to virtual. Well, I reckon that a lot of you as organizers, as marketers, as well as business owners and trainers, one of the things that you would have actually basically caught off guard, or most, in fact, would be from doing so much in live events, and after that you have to pivot to suddenly pivoting to virtual would actually be something that you would, for some, they're not really familiar with. While for others, it's expediting their plans to go to virtual. So as a virtual organizer, as a coach also, I've actually been advising a lot of our clients. I've hosted also our own, and we have an upcoming virtual festival coming up to empower more of the audience about the big potential of virtual events. But first, let me share a little bit more about why virtual. Now, virtual itself, basically, to many, it's just basically a word, where where virtual is anything to do with any events that you can host in the platform from online. Okay. But what makes it different from live events is that virtual has a very much bigger audience outreach, where live events it's limited. Basically, a lot of times it's due to cost effectiveness. You need to target on your audience, and premise virtual. Whereas in virtual, you can live stream to as many as 300,000 to 100 million people. It all depends on the bandwidth as well as the capability of the technology platform that you're using. Right. So a little bit about virtual. So I've actually been hosting a lot of events. I work for technology companies, and in 2016, we've already actually saw a big potential, and we knew, my team and I, a lot of our clients knew that, so foresees that by 2020, there will be a bigger presence in virtual. So I've actually predicted what a trend that it will be actually virtual. Why? Because actually a lot of times we have a primary audience that are up and coming, which is the generation Z and Alpha. They actually are people who are very inclined to all things virtual. So this is actually a group, but COVID-19 pandemic actually expedited the whole virtual element of it, where today all events can be held online with just the internet presence. Okay, so what in store? Why is in store for us? So virtual itself is actually the new normal. It's going to be a new normal. We are very inclined to things like webinars. Okay, we are familiar with that. We are also familiar with virtual networking, virtual exhibition halls, and this is going to be something that we will have. It will be very normal for us to be participating in a virtual exhibition or conference in the next as a normal mode of events. But that does not mean that live events will not go on. Live events will always be around, but it will now move to hybrid, because where countries where people would want to say, companies will be wanting to save money, transportation, tickets of flights and accommodations will be something that you can save. So that's where hybrid will come in. But I'm not going to share much about hybrid, because I believe the next speaker is going to share about hybrid later, the potential and all that. Okay, so next, like a title, how are we going to do it? Online events and offline events has a lot of similarities, but the biggest similarity is actually how you design, and involves a lot of the strategy. So here in our plans that we use, my team and I, we developed a framework called IDEAS, IDEARSR. So IDEAS has always been the framework that we use when we develop and we plan events for life. However, in the online space, we added another two more element of it, which is the S and the R, which stands for social as well as relationship. Okay, so what makes it different? We will basically, when you move into virtual, like I said earlier on, you need to think a lot about the strategies, because if you do not think, it is very different from live, because you have the physical people coming around. You can see the presence and everything, which people can see in physical. But in virtual, you don't know who your virtual attendees are. And so he can be a person, a gig person, he can be a CEO in short, but you don't, and the biggest effect of it is the engagement part, because a lot of times people get tired of the conversation, they got very tired of it, and they just leave the virtual event. And you wouldn't know when they leave unless you see the persons attending exceeding. Okay, so this is also one thing that a lot of virtual, event organizers are now currently facing a headache, I would say, when it comes to engagement, because this is actually, it involves a lot of strategy work, it involves a lot of funding. So this is something that, you know, they always get, how would I say, stuck, because often a lot of times they do not see the effect of it because of the way it is designed. So I always stress a lot about how we should actually use. So how do we actually do this? Just for you, we actually in our strategy, we actually design, host a design thinking or event canvas strategy meeting, which lasts about half a day or so, with our clients or even with our teams, to actually map out what is the KPI and ROI of this whole event, along with the strategies and engagement element of it that we will see in before we even actually plan the whole virtual events. So a virtual event, one element of it, which I highly recommend, is actually doing a design thinking or event canvas strategy session before you actually start, because it will really help you in planning your overall event and cut off all the simplest issue. Okay, so this is something that how we, when once you have that in place, the rest of the planning is very similar to a live event. The only other factor is you have to add in the digital element of it, which is like digital marketing, the funnels, the sales funnels of how you're actually going to plan the event. And so this is one element of it that is different from physical to live events to virtual events. Okay, next. So what are the key considerations that you need to consider? Okay, now as you all know that in live events presence, we have actually things like live sharing. Then in the last couple of years, we will add in live streaming where clients are able to watch it if they're not able. Now coming forward, live streaming will become a new norm, because that is something that people are already getting used to it. In live presence, event presence, you have things like food and beverage, but in virtual, you don't have, but you can still create something similar. Okay, networking, and people go there for their target audience there. However, in virtual, in actual fact, you can actually plan some similar things in terms of that. Okay, so what does virtual has? Okay, you can so usually, for example, you have a event that has been organized, maybe for example, in your live event, you can only cater to 1,000 people, but in a virtual event, you can cater up to 10,000 people, because you can plan a lot of other, your activities can be live streamed, can be on demand, you can even outreach to a bigger audience in terms of time frame. Okay, so for example, you are based right now in UAE, and your time is in the morning, whereas I'm in Singapore, but I'm in the afternoon. Okay, so if you want to reach out to an audience in Singapore, or Asia Pacific, what time do you need to do? So in virtual, these are elements that you can actually consider. It is possible to do, and it's becoming more popular with a lot of companies as they plan an event that the time frame of every country will, like for example, Europe time frame, America time frame, Asia time frame, can each be able to watch the live conference, but in different timing. Recently, we hosted one where our clients is based in Singapore, and they have presence in US, and they wanted to, and Europe as well as Australia. So we started off the time frame. the first kickoff in Asia at Singapore time. And we also did the next time frame, the next key launch, the same thing, okay, at 2 o'clock Singapore time for the India time, and of course for Europe and US, we started at 8 o'clock. So, but all the content are similar. And what else happened was, in virtual, we were able to get speakers of different countries to kick off the keynote speakers of this three countries in different time frame. And in virtual, this is something that you can consider. Okay, so what else? And another very important part is that in virtual, you can actually capture a lot of data. Today's technologies has allowed you, the platforms that allow you to capture technologies, data, for example, important data like how many people turn up, who are your, how much engagement they had, which speaker was the best, and at that moment, how many speakers people were actually listening to his sharing, and also who is the and what else makes, for example, what works for them and what doesn't work, and all this are captured as able to capture in virtual. Now in live events, you will not. You have very limited way of capturing. Maybe the first one, if it's an exhibition or where the exhibitors will probably be able to capture only their leads, okay, which could be one of their key objectives of exhibiting thing, but they will not be able to capture, and from there they will have to see who is the warm lead, cold lead, or just ways of just for the database. But in virtual, you can even narrow it. It's even much easier for you to host it. Okay. And lastly, in the days of today's context, brand or relationship building, or what we call community building, is one of the biggest set apart from live events as well to virtual events. How does it so? Now in community building involves a lot of relation. It actually helps. It's where your community advocates your product. And if, for example, I give you a good example, a case study. There was a Chinese metaphysics company based in Singapore. They basically are in the traditional business, because for the longest time they've been doing a lot of live events. But when COVID came, what happened is they saw the potential of virtual, and they were slowly picking up by doing virtual events, free webinars, free seminars, like what we're doing right now, to get and empower their audience. In a short span of 1 year, they grew their database and their group through a lot of free sharing, from normal 1,000 to 20,000. And this year, when COVID came, they actually had to redo all, or what happens in live, they actually pivoted all to virtual, and their database grew even bigger. The profit that they made were 3 times more of what they made throughout their live events, and their cost was reduced tremendously. Why does this? How did this happen? It was because they actually built a community through every of their free virtual, and in virtual, community building helps where it makes you an authority leader, and you have when you have events, or you have campaigns, or even you have this group of people who will be your voice piece and go in helping you in advocate building your brand, as well as your the work that you do. So this is something that virtual is capable of doing. And it's also something that lots of companies, organizations are looking into building. Recently, I think it's about a week ago, I was invited to a woman network by a famous popular brand of this computer. Now, they never built a network like that when it was live, but they saw a potential of the power of virtual building community, that they set up a women entrepreneur network where women entrepreneurs can actually share their challenges, give opinions in the community building. So this is something that was not done. Okay, I've attended a lot of their live events, but they've never done this networking. But now they see that this is a way to actually reach out to more people, to reach out to build a community, and to actually strengthen their brand by building this. And this is how, and this is what virtual events is capable of doing. Okay. So this in general is just because I've only have like 20 minutes, so I won't be able to share much more in terms of the 6 steps of strategies that we use, or why is it physical and just virtual has a difference, much difference. But I actually have, so what I'm gonna do is I've actually recently wrote an ebook that gives you the 6 steps. What you have to look out for, what are the things that, for example, in virtual, you have to look into would be the technology, the internet access, and things in order for you to run the event seamlessly. So you guys can actually can collect this book if you just by subscribing to this page, and I'm happy to give you this to share this book as part of my legacy, or I would say something that I'd like to give back to the community in sharing with you the 6 strategy steps that we use in actually running your first virtual events. This is a book that I've written. It has not been given out to many people yet, but if you want a copy, you can just subscribe to it. Okay, so how can you connect with me? Basically, you can connect with me on LinkedIn or my email. And if you would like to know more about the 6 strategies that we use, the methodology, it can be found in our website. So that's 4 I have for you. If you have any questions for me, I'll be more than happy to share with you.
Thank you for a very interesting presentation, Vivien. Yeah. Again, audience, we would like to apologize for the delay in starting the webinar, and we thank you all for your patience. Now we will proceed to the Q&A. Audience, if you haven't already, now is your chance to ask any questions you may have to Vivien using the chat box. So for our first question, Vivien, what would you say are the technologies available to keep attendees engaged during an online event?
Okay, I think that's very interesting. I am so excited because every other day we get to actually play, with the technologies that are sent to me for that I get to also to see. So one of the few is I'd like to share with you a new startup. It's based in Asia. If you're talking about engagement, for example, you have a small meeting or a small webinar, you can actually consider one engagement tool called Toasty AI. So it actually makes it very interesting. Why? Is because, for example, Navin and myself, we have just got connected, and we're gonna have a meeting later. But I don't know her at all because this is the first time meeting you, or we are in different region. So this engagement tool itself basically has some very interesting questions that it will be asking you. For example, hey, what did you have for your what are your favorite drink? Okay, coffee or tea? Okay, and then you said, oh, a coffee. And then they basically will group everyone in the coffee team together. So it also works as a very good team building tool, because when you want to break into breakout rooms, or you want to gather people of the like-minded together, but you don't know how to do that, this Toasty AI is able to actually help you to do it through their platform. Okay, then we have also Remo. Remo is actually a networking, but Remo is not it's not the first person, a group of people to do it, because they have Brelos, they have a few more others. But what Remo does is that it's able to put up to like 1,000 people in terms of networking. So there are 4 persons. They usually have 4 persons, and you click in. For example, right now I'm here, and then we have 4 persons in the table. And so what you do is you basically click on it, and you get to meet Navim face to face. Yes, and then you can, after which you say, hey, I want to meet maybe another person, okay, Harold, and he's sitting in table 2. So you just click on Harold's face, and you will get to go to Harold's, and you will talk to Harold. So that's one engagement networking part that I have. Recently, I also get to meet a very, to me, it's a real game changer. Very interesting engagement tool. It's also an event registration. You can run your event, and the name of the platform is called Run the World. The people behind it used to work for Facebook, Instagram. So what they did was this platform currently right now is free for you to use. So you just basically set up an event. You can actually interact with your friends through video conferencing. You can do a video conferencing introduction and share it to the audience. And it's very intuitive, and it's run amazingly. It managed to get quite a fair bit of fundings from big names. So check it out, Run the World. Okay, so that's something that you guys can look at. Today, like I said, there's so many. Now, talking about exhibition platforms, there are quite a number of where the platform. Okay, recently Untated used a platform called Skype. I can give you all the names of where the links for it. And in this platform itself, you can do it's an exhibition platform, okay, and it's also a conference. Things like, for example, sometimes when we the virtual platforms that we know, like 6 Connections and all that, where when you get in and then you go into this platform, it's like a virtual walkthrough to exhibition hall and things like that. This particular one stands out because it's very easy to use. You can even it's very clean, okay. Because I've seen some that's so confusing that it makes me wonder, if I, being a event organizer, is trying to figure out how to work, what more about my audience? Yeah, that's something that I don't, I tried this and it was really good. You can even do photo. They had photo booth inside. So it's like bringing a physical event into a live, into a virtual platform. I probably give the link to the organizers, and you guys can check it out. Yeah. So these are some that I okay.
Thank you, Vivien, for sharing all this interesting technology with us. I'm sure our audience will want to use it during their next virtual event. We have another question from someone from our attendees. What is the importance of digital marketing in launching a successful virtual event and positioning an event company not just as a deal facilitator, but as a thought leader?
Okay. Well, today's digital marketing, basically, one of the key factors is in all virtual events, you have to use digital. So the key difference is about personal branding. I'm sure you are, branding yourself first. Branding yourself not through simple talks, starting off your funnel with getting more and more talks, podcasts, even doing virtual, putting yourself in a different type of platforms. Like maybe, for example, you use a new platform, okay, that can be intuitive, and then you get yourself, engaged, sharing with people about, hey, I just checked this out, this is new, and you constantly have to talk about it. This is something that you, from doing this, okay, give yourself, I would say, about 5-6 months. you will see a lot of difference in yourself being positioned as a thought leader. But more importantly, is when you are a thought leader, you have to share something that maybe other people will think that, no, it is not true at all. But always believe in yourself that these are things, because you take an effort to share, to do some research and analyze it. So whatever you share about it is something that maybe others will not. Because in this world of Google friendly, okay, search, any topics can be Googled. But what sets you apart as a thought leader is your experience from your live events, through your work experience, through your case studies, and then you share it with the client, and you share it based on what you know. And that will definitely set you apart as a thought leader. Like for example, today, being sharing here with Nadine and the team from Domus, I'm sure a lot of you would know that they are one of the game changer, because it takes an effort, and it's not easy to find topics that people would not have heard before. But there are differences in the way they deal with it. Yeah, and I think this is something that sets them apart. Yeah. So that's a consideration point for you to think. Yes. So is that do you want? Yeah.
Thank you, Vivien. This concludes our question and answer session with Vivien. If you have any further questions for Vivien, please feel free to email your question to events@domusgroup.ae. We'll now post the email address in the chat box for your reference. Thanks again, Vivien.
Thank you for it.
So Vivien and our other speakers are also available for independent trainings for individuals or groups. If you would like Vivien to host a training session for you or to speak at your next virtual event, please get in touch with Domus Events using the same email address, events@domusgroup.ae, for further details. Now we'll move on to our second session for today. Chris Powell, joining us from the UK. He'll be discussing becoming part of the new normal, effectiveness and efficiency of online and hybrid events. Chris is the director of The Event Expert and has been designing, planning, and delivering events for 24 years. In that time, he has been a local authority events manager and events director of a range of events and festivals in the UK, as well as helping a variety of organizations to deliver their events as a freelance events manager and consultant. Good morning, Chris. Please proceed.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome from a rainy UK. So no great surprise there for you, but we've had a little bit of sunshine, but no, I'm afraid it's a rainy UK. So what you're going to watch me do is trundle around the laptop a little bit and find my presentation, and there we are. So that's what happens on virtual events. You see people kind of staring at screens and things like that as well. So let me get started then. Right. Thank you very much indeed, everybody, for attending this webinar. I guess it's good afternoon in the UAE and possibly good evening in Singapore. It's relatively early in the morning in the UK, and I'm delighted to be part of this Domus webinar on virtual and hybrid events. Sorry, not sure what I've done there. And it's just such a fascinating subject. I've been in the live events business for 25 years. I figured live was the only thing that mattered. But I have to say, these last few months, where we all know what's happened, my opinion on the kind of virtual and hybrid world has changed, actually. And I'm becoming more of a fan of the online world. I always thought it couldn't be replaced by a live event. But done well, you know, hybrid and virtual events are incredibly powerful tool. So what I'm going to try and do is just kind of talk you through the process of particularly talking about hybrid events. So there will be a little bit of crossover from Vivien's talk in terms of the virtual side of a hybrid event as well, but that hopefully will reinforce that you know, both of us think that the virtual hybrid world is a really fantastic opportunity. So The key part, as with everything in life, is that it's got to be done well, because your virtual audience can kind of sign off pretty quickly. So it's important that your traditional event management skills come absolutely to the fore. Okay, so let's have just a few kind of definitions really. But for those who understand hybrid, it's absolutely fine. So this will just reinforce what you already know. But just to remind what a hybrid event is, it's a live in-person event with online components. So that's your live stream speech, that's your Q&A, that's your panel. So it really is this kind of blend of live and virtual. And the really key part here, and that's what Vivien alluded to, is this engagement of your remote audience. You need to keep them involved, because what's different is the energy in the room doesn't exist for those remotely. Ordinarily, a live event has, people wandering around chatting, there's an energy, there's connections, there's all those sorts of things as well. Your remote events, or your remote audience, I should say, are actually just sat there on the laptop, on the phone and that. So it's incumbent on us to really engage them, to make them feel part of this event. So just some quick definitions here. A live event, primary audience in the room. You're looking at them, okay? You can see them, you can feel the energy, you can do all that sorts of stuff as well. A virtual event, then your audience is entirely online. So occasionally you might get to see one or two people, but the larger the event, it's pretty unlikely. So those on camera are effectively panelists, audience members and speakers. So they do remain quite remote. They of course can see what's going on, but you really have very little connection. As you get to very big virtual events, then there's very little connection at all. So what we're going to talk about is hybrid events. So you have two primary audiences, one in the room and one online. And the truth is they are equally important. We absolutely mustn't forget one or the other and go, well, the people in the room are the matter because I can see them and all the rest of it. Your remote audience, and I would probably suspect your remote audience is actually your remote audience will always be bigger, and therefore they're incredibly important to make sure that every step of the way you're being very, what I call audience centric, and you're taking care of your remote audience. So they are equally important. So why bother on the hybrid front? We're all pretty familiar with the benefits of events themselves, but the things that I like about the hybrid side of things is you just have this much greater control. The last few months have demonstrated in full technicolor that there is stuff outside our control that will cancel your events. We also are very conscious as we travel around the world that there's political, environmental and health risks that also impact on your ability to put on events. So we have much, much greater control, which I do like. I'm an event manager, so being a little bit control freakish is my world. You will always have higher attendance and reach, so to speak. So the question before was about digital marketing and promotion. Now, done well, your audiences will be much bigger, okay? You will be able to reach new audiences, you'll be able to reach global audiences, and you could, by doing this, become much more inclusive and diverse because you're reducing the entry barriers to your event, okay? Perhaps I can't travel. Perhaps I don't have the cash to pay a full price. Perhaps I might get there but can't stay. So you become much more inclusive, and that for us as companies and organizations, whatever it is that you do, has to be a good thing to be more inclusive and diverse, and to allow those kind of entry barriers to be reduced as well. Vivien alluded to it as well. It's just got better metrics. The platforms that you use on your virtual side of your event are all set up with great analytics, so you absolutely know what works and what doesn't. And you're vital, and it is a vital future planning aid. So I really understand what works, what doesn't, and what I need to do different next time round. And that is given to me in real time. You know, getting evaluations at the end of kind of live events is really hard. You know, people really don't want to do it. They don't want to fill in forms, they just want to get gone. But this virtual side of your hybrid events allows you to get these fantastic metrics as well. If you're involved in the world of sponsorship for your events as well, then there's much more opportunities, because effectively you have two parts to sponsor now, and you have a larger audience to aim at. Again, the metrics allow us to demonstrate to the sponsors if there's been click-throughs to websites and things like that as well. So on the opportunity front, you have all the usual stuff that we can sponsor at a live event, but you can move the sponsorship package and perhaps increase it to your online version of that as well. And that's just a real opportunity to broaden or deepen a sponsorship relationship as well. And as I said, you know, sponsors are after metrics. They love the idea of being able to demonstrate, you know, exactly what's happened. We all have a personal responsibility as event managers to be much more sustainable. You know, we are one of the worst people, or major events certainly are one of the worst things in terms of sustainability. So we absolutely need to embrace hybrid events as a way of reducing our carbon footprint. It is much more cost effective generally. It's a much more economical alternative as well if you're not versed with great budgets. And some of us, as we come out of the pandemic, will realize that budgets are a little bit tight actually, and we need to have events as part of our marketing strategy, and we need to do something, but actually we don't have the cash to do the big grand, you know, major venue, major catering kind of style thing, but we do have enough cash to do you know, a very good alternative, which might be a hybrid or a virtual. Every time I've ever run an event in my life, and I've done 500 odd, then there is enforced event travel. I make people travel to that event, to that venue, okay? And what hybrid and virtual does is reduce that need to travel, which again, I accept that there's always consequences of reducing travel for certain companies, but again, it is incumbent on us as responsible event managers to really consider about how we run our events and kind of tick that sustainability button as well. As companies who bravely grasp the nettle, they found out that this this virtual and hybrid market is going to be, it's virtual right now because there are no live events. Well, they're coming, but not yet. So at the moment, the virtual event world is a real financial lifeline to those companies that have grabbed it. Those that have buried their head in the sand and hope everything's going to be all right at the other end, I've really lost out. Okay, so it's an incredible opportunity at the moment to, you know, keep being front of mind of your clients and customers, because perhaps if you're not doing that, then they may be attracted to, you know, to other competitors of yours. So it's a really important lifeline in terms of kind of a financial stream. May not make you exactly the same amount of money as your live event does, but you will have a much bigger audience. And what it does do is you can take your online, your live event stuff, and then you can use it, and we call it repurpose it, share that content again and again and again, which you can then use to feed your marketing funnel. So you're keeping in contact with your audience, you're broadening your funnel, you're probably doing some kind of lead magnet stuff where you're putting some information out to kind of attract people to come to your world. So one of the advantages of hybrid is that you have this lovely recorded content which you can use and repurpose and share again and again. So let's talk a little bit about the kind of how-to of successful hybrid events. I talked earlier about the fact that you have two equally important audiences. So guess what? They just both want fantastic content. Relevant, insightful, engaging, and absolutely 100% focused on solving some sort of problem for them. So what we're looking for is behavior changing content. I call it, you know, agreeing on what you call the money action. The money action is the behavior change that I require from my audience. Is it an upskill? Is it a change in attitude? Is it a change in behavior? So your content has to be absolutely on the money. Virtual events are in the main shorter than their kind of live counterparts. So you have to be really spot on in terms of your content. And there's a lot of often, and forgive my phraseology, there's a lot of dead wood in some conferences, and that all has to go. This has to be fantastic content all the time. Your event venue can effectively be a little bit smaller. So liken your event venue to your studio, like a TV studio. And it's very important that that venue has very good 4 or 5G connectivity to make sure that your live streaming is right spot on the money. So there are no technical issues or bandwidth issues, okay? So your event venue is very much your live event venue, but also consider it as being kind of your studio. You want to put out, good, I call it broadcast grade sound and pictures. So this needs to be a high class digital experience, okay? So we want to put in what we can afford, but make it feel as though somebody has really put in the effort to make sure that the pictures and the sound are great. And trust me, whenever the pictures and the sound get a little bit flaky at any style of event, that's where people kind of start to switch off as well. Vivien talked about some kind of networking software, so absolutely introduce that into your hybrid events as well. My suggestion possibly is that your in the room networking group are quite comfortable networking, but I suspect the networking software is best used predominantly, or rather to have 2 separate audiences, so your remote networkers and your in the room networkers. I think that at the moment, I think that works better. And always have what I call breakout rooms, and these could be, where you have a round table chat. They need to be moderated, all those sorts of things as well. Also, I was on an event last week, and there were breakout rooms for the coffee break, which was really cool. Actually, I really liked it. Where we were on a coffee break, so we just sat having a coffee, and there were 5 or 6 people up in front of me, so we had a little chat as well. Engaging your remote audience is absolutely key, okay? Really important. So that's surveys, chat, Q&A, competitions, anything you can think of just to keep that engagement going. And certainly my experience is that, the chat and the Q&A can be a fantastic stream of information. People asking questions, suggesting solutions to some people's questions as well. And it's a really important stream of information. In fact, sometimes it feels like there's kind of 2 events going on as well. Speaking online is not the same as speaking in front of a live audience. It requires certain skills and certain techniques to be able to bring that kind of energy and that kind of feeling of passion and engagement from a speaker into the remote room, so to speak. So you need to select your speakers wisely, and you really want people who are skilled in online speaking. This is something you can learn, obviously. And I suspect I'm probably more comfortable speaking in front of a live audience because I can really gauge what's happening. At the moment, you can see me, but I can't see you. So I don't get any sense of what's happening. So you're picking your speakers is really key. And of course, they've got to be on the money in terms of the content as well. And as Vivien said, they can come from anywhere in the world now. They don't have to be the people that are next to you or part of your kind of social circle or your business circle as well. There are lots of kind of virtual platforms out there at the moment. So we're on GoToWebinar, Zoom, all those sorts of things as well. So they exist. My suggestion really would be twofold, really, that there's a degree of simplicity about them. There's nothing worse than being invited to a webinar that has a tricky setup system. It's not easy to work out how it's going to work, because just imagine your speakers have got the same issues as well. So a degree of simplicity I think is good, and a great user experience. So this needs to work for everybody. Now there's some very great stuff out there, much more complex than some of the ones I've mentioned. but it really think about your audience first. You know, are they going to get it, want it? Are you going to make them download stuff? Are you going to chuck in a load of apps in there which they have to download as well? So just think about the user experience, because it's entirely incumbent on us as good event managers to make sure that user experience is brilliant. Do invest in what I call high production values. So always hire an experienced contractor who understands the world of kind of broadcast quality style or broadcast style quality events. Okay, you know, the lighting, the backdrops, the sets, the sound, and all those sorts of things as well. This doesn't have to be expensive, by the way, but it does need to be done well. I mean, I guess we're all familiar with people kind of being lit a little bit differently on online events. Some you can see, some you can't. Okay, and one of the things that is absolutely key, as Nadine is ably demonstrating, is the host is really important to keep the flow of the event, keep weaving the content together, listening in for speakers, and able to dovetail them into the next ones as well. So your event host is incredibly important as well. And of course, as we know, there are technical difficulties sometimes, and you know, your event host has to leap in and perhaps come up with some sort of contingency planning as well. So just to finish off, I know I'm talking about hybrid, but let's just talk about hybrid or virtual. My thinking right now is it's just a must-do activity. You know, I'm having to pivot my kind of event training, my event consultancy online, and get used to this new world. You know, I much prefer to be in front of somebody face to face. I can't do it, so I need to pivot. Okay, so I'm pivoting into this kind of virtual world as well. So live events are going to return. Some countries it's kind of there, others we're still a little away from live events. My suggestion is they're very likely to be small at first, and attendance rates are going to be low. And the reason for that is that people will not feel confident enough to come along to events. And one of the things I'm doing at the moment, working on an event at the moment where I'm putting in all the health and safety and risk assessment plans with a kind of a COVID feel to them. And it's incumbent on me to make sure that in that risk assessment, people really look at it and the public think, yeah, they're doing everything they should do. Okay, because I need to give confidence to my audience that I'm doing the right thing. So your live only events program is, in my head, a risky strategy. You're going to lose months because your live event program is going to be stopped. So I think going forward, it's a risky strategy. Audiences are comfortable with tech now. It's all over the place. You know, your parents, your grandparents, everybody's on it, everybody's using it. So the world has changed. We need to change. We need to adapt, and we need to adapt in order to survive. As Charles Darwin once said many years ago, it's those that adapt that are going to survive. Okay, so your hybrid events have this lovely balance, cater for the live audience that you know, desperately want to come, and you know, I will still be going to live events, but I absolutely want an option now to attend virtually. And for those that can't attend, your virtual event or your virtual side of your hybrid allows you to be able to you know, to be part of an event which perhaps ordinarily you would never be able to be part of as well. So the key things here is, you know, great content, followed up by some really good messaging. So that's all your promotional side. You know, really there's compelling reasons to attend. Why should I come to this event? You know, what's so good about it? Why is it for me? And that needs to be backed up by some good technology just to keep the whole thing moving behind the scenes effectively. And then you get what I call a modern, relevant event. And that is exactly where we need to be right now. Okay, so thank you very much for your time and attention. That's been a quick kind of whistle-stop tour of the world of kind of hybrid events. You'll note my company is the Event Expert, and I do kind of online and in-house event management courses covering all types of business, public, and of course virtual events now. So I'm going to sign off there, and thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you too, Chris, for your very useful insights. We'll now move on to some questions from our audience. Once again, please use the chat box to post your questions for Chris. So the first question we will start with, Chris, what do you think is the future of hybrid events after travel bans and gathering restrictions have been lifted?
I think you know the answer to this, but I think they've got a very positive future. I think we absolutely must embrace them. We're pretty comfortable with the kind of virtual world now. The next step is to have that live element and that virtual element. So I think there's going to be, I think there'll be a very positive future. It will suit some companies more than others. Some will embrace it, others will just kind of hang on to the past and think, well, no, it has to be live or it's not going to work. Unfortunately, if I spent my life thinking about what's gone, then I would never have a successful business going forward. So I absolutely need to embrace all these sorts of things. As I said, I'm a live events person. I love live. But I think it has a very, very positive future. And I think it's something that we really must embrace.
Yes, I agree about this. Also, we have a question from Jackson. He's asking how to design pre and post event deliverables for sponsors and hybrid events, which will help event companies monetize and at the same time sponsor also get their return on investment.
Wow, that's a good question. Yeah, does he realize it's quite early in the morning for long questions like that?
Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, Levy, I can, yes, I know it's absolutely fine. Right, as with all sponsorships, there's, you know, the days of, you know, sponsorship package A, B, and C have gone. You know, that's history. Okay, so sponsorship is very much a partnership. So this is about two parties chatting about their events and working about where the opportunities actually exist. Okay, it's no point me saying, well, I'll give you this package and it costs this amount. You have to have this kind of partnership. So it's very much a partnership. So I'm not keen on the word sponsorship now because it has to be a partnership. And what the virtual and the hybrid side allows us just much better metrics, so we can actually understand what is happening. We can also be very clear on numbers that actually turn up. We can ask very specific questions about the audience to make sure that the audience is actually the audience the sponsors actually want. So there is one small caveat here, is that often you have to run an event first to understand its true audience, and then it becomes much easier to sell it in terms of kind of sponsorship as well. So there is that caveat, is that sometimes you need to run this thing first to actually get the kind of metrics as well. Just remind me, have I missed something? That was quite a long question. I think I might have I missed? So apologies, Jackson. I'm happy to do it
entirely. So we'll just conclude this session's question and answer. And again, if you have any further questions for Chris, please feel free to email your question to events@domusgroup.ae. And we've already posted the email address in the chat box for your reference. Just to remind you all, Chris and our other speakers are also available for independent trainings for individuals or groups. Domus Events can help you facilitate this, so please get in touch with Domus Events using the same email address, events@domusgroup.ae, for further details. For those of you just joining us, we would like to encourage you to take advantage of the interactivity of this webinar to share insights and ask questions by typing in the chat box. We'll address your questions during the question and answer at the end of each session. Thanks again, Chris, for sharing all your insights with us.
My pleasure. Thank you all.
Thank you. So now moving on to our third session, we welcome Ms. Maysoon Abelhoul, the Chief Operating Officer of the Domus Group, as she gives her view on transforming physical events to hybrid events. Hi, Ms. Maysoon. Please feel free to start.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and hi again from Dubai. This is Maysoon Abul Hol. Thank you, Nadim, for introducing me. I'll be talking about the hybrid event from the perspective of an event management company. Just to not repeat what the information given by Chris and Vivien earlier, I'll just take you through a presentation where I will be facilitating the idea. How do we view it from an event management company perspective, organizing our own management, organizing our own events, and organizing events for the third party. Let me take you over my presentation. Here we will be starting with Domus events, transforming from physical to hybrid events. For sure now, after the first two sessions, you know the concept we are talking about when talking about the hybrid events. But talking about hybrid events from our perspective, it comes from the perspective of viewing it in the form of exhibitions, conferences, seminars, and workshops. For us, it is the method of using technology without eliminating the physical presence, as this is one of the virtual obstacles. And if it was required, and this will give you an online and physical interaction between all the stakeholders in any of the events. Plus, it will be viewed by the future audience. In case they miss this event lively, they can always have it recorded with the same interaction that took place during the live event. And from our perspective, the hybrid events will give companies the opportunity to be there all for the whole year, rather than having a 3-day event that might not be convenient for all audience. Now, after presenting the hybrid event from our own perspective, just wanted to give you a brief about the difference between the virtual and the hybrid platform. You can have a virtual event alone where there is no physical presence, and you can have a hybrid event that will include the virtual and the physical presence, and you still can have a virtual event taken from a hybrid event platform. So the hybrid will give me the opportunity of having a virtual and a physical presence, plus it can be giving me a solo virtual presence based on the platform we are planning to have in our company. Now, our platform will be done in a 3D tour with a 360 view angle. And it will come in the following forms. You have the exhibition form, where you will have a 3D stands in the hall, and the products of our clients will be presented virtually. And there will be an audio and link to access the website of the products presented. So our clients will have the liberty of presenting their products in whatever form they are looking for. That will include the 3D presentation of their current products. We will have it in auditorium vision, where we will be serving conferences, seminars, webinars in a more advanced way, and workshops. Plus, we will be having a networking lobby where there will be an interaction via live chats between visitors and participants, which is exactly the same as the networking lobby we have in exhibitions that are done physically. There will be a virtual lobby too, where there will be an information desk, registration data, and visitor data will be available in that page. And finally, you will be having a landing page specialized for each and every event. Using our platform, we will be able to give each and every event its own privacy and its own live landing page, whether it was events organized by us, or being a third party organizing events for other companies or other establishments. Plus, there will be a registration system where attendees and visitors will be registering there. And in case there was any online payment needed to be done to our exhibitors or to ourselves as organizers, there will be a payment gateway. So everything will be on that platform. Now, asking ourselves, what is the reason behind this new concept creation? Now, for sure, the current situation with COVID-19 is the reason why we decided to take this matter seriously, although it was part of our strategy for the coming 2 years. But having the convenient technology where it became in the hand of all our clients, and most of our clients gave us feedback that they won't be attending our events because they, after counting the expenses of the logistics and of the flying in from international clients, they find it costly. So this technology will eliminate this problem, and at the same time to keep our events running regardless of what happens worldwide, and to keep our stakeholders safe, applying the rules and regulations done by each and every country. So the technology is more like our universal platform where we can all meet with no restrictions. At the same time, as I mentioned earlier, we'll be reducing the cost of transportation and logistics to facilitate it on our clients. And anyways, whether we started it now or we started it after 2 years or 3 or 10, technology is the future, and it will be most convenient in terms of sustainability, reach, and cost effectiveness. Now, how can we maximize our benefit using this technology? We will have a wide reach where we'll have larger audience, larger attendees from all over the world, where flying in is sometimes an obstacle, whether it was cost-wise or it was calendar-wise. At the same time, there will be convenience in attending the events, as it will be accessible to everyone. And there will be more interaction where it will not be restricted to that certain time or these certain days. So we'll have more interaction all over the year, where most of our events will be taking time from 3 to 6 months and up to 1 year. There will be a long-term effectiveness in the relationship, and it will still be an attractive platform, given that we are having physical attendance and virtual attendance. Now, finally, before I go out of these slides, I would like to let you know an example of how things can be hybrid. For example, you can have an exhibition where you will be having conferences taking a physical part, where there will be speakers with a live stream, and you will have the exhibition in the other part taking on the virtual platform. So there is interaction, there are clients, and there is a virtual access. We will be giving more information in future after our platform is ready, and we'll be communicating it to the press as soon as possible, but we are currently working on it, and we are testing it in-house before we announce it to our clients and sponsors. Thank you very much. And this is again Maysoon from Domus Group, and hope you enjoyed the presentation, and let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Maysoon, for sharing the details of your exciting new platform with us. So we'll now move on to some questions from our audience. Once again, use the chat box to post your questions for Ms. Maysoon. So for our first question, how has Domus Events adapted and changed the way it works as a result of the pandemic?
Actually, Domus Events decided to go with the virtual platform I mentioned earlier, and this platform will be a specialized platform where we will be giving the opportunity to our clients to have a virtual and a physical presence in whatever event they want to be having. Given we don't know how things will proceed in the coming year, if things didn't get sorted out completely, then there will be some restrictions in attendance. So Domus Events is trying to get the solution in advance. In case things didn't get sorted out within the timeline we are expecting, we will still not miss the opportunity of organizing our own events and organizing events for third parties.
Thank you, Ms. Maysoon. And for our next question, how convenient is the new platform for Domus Event stakeholders?
It will be convenient in a way that we will be having a demo where they will be trying it on and seeing how this platform is convenient to them. there will be access, there will be all solutions applied to any obstacles that is taking place. So our stakeholders will be having a full idea of how our platform is going to work before we announce any events going, or before even having their events organized by us.
Thank you, Ms. Maysoon. This is all the time we have for questions in this session's Q&A. But if you have any further questions for Ms. Maysoon, please feel free to email your question to events@domusgroup.ae. Now we have another interesting session coming up from our fourth and final speaker, Majd Alusta, who will be giving us tips on the effective ways in boosting work productivity in the office or while working remotely. The content of this session is extremely relevant for us all today. Please be reminded to stay tuned until the end of the webinar, when we will reveal the 3 winners of our special prizes today. A bit about our next speaker, Majd Alusta. He is a certified personal development coach and trainer and the CEO and founder of Alusta Training and Coaching. His speciality is in maximizing human capital and potential. Majd will now be giving us tips on the effective ways in boosting work productivity in the office or while working remotely. Thank you for joining us today, Majd. We look forward to hearing what you have to share with us.
It's really a pleasure to be here. Good morning, everyone. Let me just go quickly and open. Can you see my presentation?
We can't see your screen at the moment. Now we can see.
Yeah, all right. So what we're going to be talking about is effective ways in boosting your work productivity and in the office and while working remotely. And let's get right into it. Since we're talking about being effective, one of the most important things is time control. Now, I'm going to be talking about a few things that might not be mentioned here. Please feel free to take your notes, to write whatever it is that you see on the screen or whatever it is that we're talking about. So the first thing that comes in mind, and I always start with this thing, is you really have to focus on what goes on in your head, because usually what we do in any case of our lives, whether socially or at work, that we focus so much on the physical aspect and we forget that it all starts from here. And that being said, it's really important for you to understand, if you're mentally ready, you're always physically prepared to do any kind of thing that you're set to do. And so we start with improving your environment conditions, both physically and mentally. And what does that mean? You really have to improve the quality of your own thoughts. Starting your day on a bad note, on a negative thought, is most likely gonna ruin the rest of your day. So things that we usually say, I didn't have enough sleep, I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. These are always sentences and phrases and things, or a mental thing that we kind of trick ourselves that, well, today I cannot do the best that I can. And so you really have to start on a very positive note, regardless of what has happened when you woke up, whether you had the traffic in the morning, it doesn't matter. You really have to be mentally tough to do whatever it is that you want to do. And so saying that, one of the most important things is not only to start with a positive note, but you really have to believe in what you're saying to yourself. So you really have to believe that you are actually an effective person. It's not about only skill and whether you are, you have the tools and the equipment and the skill set that will allow you to be effective, but you actually have to believe deep down, and you have to repeat that to yourself on a daily basis, that I am effective and I can do the things that I'm going to do. And we talk about, me and my clients all the time about this thing. You really have to eat healthy. Your body is a vessel. It is your car, let's say. It is your machine. If you're going to put the wrong kind of fuel in your machine, it is not, most likely is not going to perform to its best. And so it is very important that you eat healthy throughout the day. And this doesn't go, only when you're working. Actually, it should be kind of your lifestyle, that you eat healthy, because think of your body as an ecosystem. It's an organism. If you feed it well, physically, then it's going to perform physically well. And vice versa. Also, if you feed it mentally well, and also eating good food is going to help you mentally, not only physically, then most likely you are actually going to achieve better results in the things that you do, work-wise, within your relationships, financially, socially, and so on. And, you have to take systematic breaks. That's very important. Throughout the day, people think, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set my day in my calendar, and I know exactly what I'm gonna be doing every 5 minutes, each hour, and that's great. But people usually, and sometimes I also get in that trap, but I forget to take breaks. And it is very important that you take breaks, you unwind, you take your mind off of whatever it is that you're doing, so you can have that side, that you can breathe, that you can relax, that you can get away from whatever it is that you're doing. Perhaps it's stressful, that is going to help you. Perhaps it's not stressful, it's actually something very happy. But sometimes even being happy and excited about something, it could be overwhelming. And so it puts kind of a pressure, a mental pressure, and taking a break will always take your mind off of that and makes you go back kind of ground zero, to be more grounded and to relax, and then come back and do whatever it is that you want to do. And move, always move. Again, your body has to move. We're designed to move, and the more you move, the better it is. It's going to enhance your blood circulation. It's going to get your mind off of the task at hand, which is going to have that positive impact on you mentally and physically. And one of the simplest way of achieving being effective, rearranging or redesigning your workplace. Sometimes people say, I work in a company, I can't really change my office. Perhaps you can, but that's also one of the terminology that you also need to mentally change, the word I can. Because I am so sure that on your desk, there are a lot of things that you actually can move around. Sometimes I move just things around my desktop, on my screen, on my laptop, that I just change where folders are, because we have a muscle memory. So if you need something, you're going to immediately go and click it, and you're going to get right to it. But if you have that, where did I put that folder? This is always going to keep your brain engaged to search for things instead of being dull and just doing things out of memory. So rearrange your workspace, change things. If you're sitting on the right side, sit on the left side. And so whatever, be creative. This is your workspace. It should be fun. It should be something that brings you joy, brings you, that positive feeling about why are you here in the first place. And so when we talk about improving the environment conditions, physically and mentally, it's really important that we look at these points. Number two is redesign and rethink your to-do list. And we always start with the 3-minute rule. You have a lot of tasks, perhaps, on any given day. And you really have to understand, being effective is not only at work. It's not only at the office. Being effective should become a habit of this is who you are. This is what you do. Not only when you are the employee. So the 3-minute rule is, if you have tasks, always get rid and finish the tasks that are small tasks that takes 2 to 3 minutes, 5 minutes. That's fine, because the more you're getting those little things away from your view or from your path, you're actually going to be able to tackle these bigger tasks that you are set to do, and prioritize your tasks. I mean, I think it speaks for itself. You have plenty of tasks. You really need to know what is it that you need to do first. But again, don't forget the 3-minute rule, because those small things, they really make a lot of difference. Think of it, if you are going to go out of your garage and there is a box in front of you. If you're going to get around it, perhaps it's going to take you 30 seconds because you're going to reverse and go back and go forward, and then you're on your way. But if you move that box, which is going to take you roughly 10 seconds, you have actually saved 20 other seconds that you might have actually lost just because you were thinking about going around it. And so that's exactly how the brain works. We always try to maneuver things. And so sorry, not get away, but finish and finalize those smaller things. Limit distractions. I mean, it speaks for itself. Number one distraction, I think, nowadays is our phone. Whether you're receiving messages from social media, whether you are receiving messages even from colleagues, even work related, it could actually distract you from what you're doing. You really need to have that focus, because focus is gonna bring you not only effectiveness, it's going to bring you time control, it's going to bring you time management, and it's going to really keep you on point in terms of what is it that you're doing. Wear headphones if you want. Put headphones, you can put music on it, or whatever it is that might keep you in focus, or just plain headphones with nothing, just to minimize if someone is walking around, if people are on the phone around you, or if you're working from home, someone is cooking, the kids, or whatever that may be. And create a focus garden. I love this one, because you really have to come up with a creative way of reminding yourself that, I have to be on point, I have to be in focus, and, nothing is going to distract me. One of the very simplest things that I always have is a tennis ball. It's always in my hand, kind of if I'm stressed, I can always, push on it and release that stress that I have. But it's always there, it always reminds me that I am doing something, I have to finish it. And if you really can come up with something like this, that would be actually amazing. You could put a picture of your family that could be your focus garden, to always and constantly remind you, what are you doing, why are you here, and so on. And, you have to find the motivating reason of why are you doing this task. You really have to find positive reasons. Why are you here? A lot of people sometimes, they say, I don't know, I am doing this because it is my job. Okay. But you have to ask furthermore questions. Why are you doing this? It's not only because your job. Do you want to do this? And if you find your positive reason, because, for example, you are doing your job because, you are a responsible employee, or because you are working towards the empowerment and the improvement of your career and your life conditions. Some people say, it pays the bills. I can provide food on the table. This is a positive reason to always constantly remind you, why are you doing this? Because you really have to like and to really love what you're doing. I remember one time a client of mine, I was telling them that, you really have to love what you do. And they said, no, you really have to do what you love. But my question is, how would you be doing what you love if you don't love what you do? It's always right here. It's always in the here, in the now. If you can find positive reasons of liking your thing and doing it because you really want to do it, then how are you eventually going to end up doing what you really love? And of course, it is important to eliminate negative justifiers. People say, I'm doing this because there is nobody else would. Everybody is busy and I have to. You don't have to. These negative justifiers or negative thought patterns are going to demoralize you. They're going to demotivate you, because then you're going to feel like, yeah, I have to. I don't want to be here, but I have to. No, try to find something better that you can change your terminology that you use, that you constantly bombard yourself with. And tweaking those little thoughts can actually have a massive impact on your life and on your work and how effective you are. The more negative you are, the more you're going to dwell on those negativity, and you're going to feel the pressure, and you're not going to actually be focused on what it is that you do. So if you think that you have to do this task, think again. Perhaps you want to do this task. Change the I have to I want to. And why do you want to? It's because, because you're a responsible employee. Perhaps that's one of the reasons. Because you're good at what you do. because you really want to improve your life condition, because. And so eliminating them, you're turning them again into a positive reason that is going to keep you moving forward. And again, change the way you talk to yourself. I can't do it. I am not worthy enough. I don't know how to do this task. Well, I am not fast. I don't have time control. I don't have any time management. I didn't learn that. Where I come from, my previous company, my boss, all these things, the way how you talk to yourself, you are actually lying to yourself, telling the stories for yourself that you most probably are going to believe that are actually going to affect the way you behave, the way you perform in life, in work. And so change the way you talk to yourself. Catch yourself. What is it that you tell yourself every day when you wake up? What is it? How do you think? How do you talk to yourself if you make a mistake? Some people say, that was stupid. I am stupid. Be careful. These things that you say, your subconscious is going to believe them and it's going to reflect them back onto you, making you believe that you're actually stupid or you're incapable. So change the way you talk to yourself. And find the right ways and tools and equipment that actually can help you in performing better and doing the best that you can. And how do you find the right ways? Number one, do your own homework, do your own research before you go and ask anybody. There's nothing wrong with asking anybody. We'll talk about it, but start with doing something on your own, because that should be your habit. That should be your mentality, that you go and do it. So for example, if you go to the sea and you want people always to fish for you, you're going to end up dependent on people all the time. So do your homework. The internet is free, and we have, I'm always, I always say it, we live in a country, in the UAE, where we are surrounded by all this professional platform of people, the community from all over the place, from all over the world, and they are smart and they know their ways. So you can ask, absolutely, but do your homework and you research first. And because the right way is always your right way. You could ask me, what is the right way to do things? And I could give you the right way, in my opinion, and it could not work for you. That doesn't make it a bad way, because there's only one right way, which is the right way that is right for you. And try new things. You have, for example, a tool, you want to be more efficient or more, when it comes to time management, you could download a tool as simple as, calendar organizer. It's a new application. You've never been there. You're changing from Windows to Mac. It's a new interface. You're bombarded by it. This is weird. This is hard. This is difficult. Try new things. Don't be afraid. We have a brain. God gave us, one of the most impressive tools on this planet. And trust me, you can always get around things no matter how hard it is. I mean, it's as simple as think where you are now in life. Think about how many things you have to go through and, to learn the skills. And where are you now is because you have found a way around all these obstacles. And so don't be afraid to try new things. And please don't be afraid to make a mistake with new things. That's how we're going to learn. And then ask others. Can't get around it. You think you need to get more. Ask others. But be careful when you ask others that their opinion doesn't become your ultimate reality. Someone has an opinion of a tool, of the right way to do it. Try it out. It's a new thing. Don't be afraid. But don't make it just always, this is the ultimate tool that I always use. Ask others, take opinions, but also, take it on board and formulate your own opinion of how you can work it out or how you can enhance it and so on. So it's really important in general when we talk about being effective to really start in the mind. You really have to believe in yourself. You really have to believe that you are able to do it. And you always have to start your day and finish your day. And throughout the day, be always positive. Be always nice to yourself. To be kind to yourself. Imagine yourself, you're being unkind to yourself the whole day. You are in your head talking 24/7 to yourself in an unkind way. How is that going to make you feel? Where is that going to get you? And what is it going to bring you and the people around you at work, in the street, the supermarket, your family? So it really starts in here. And trust me, if you do it the right way that is for you, to you, in your head, I genuinely believe everybody is capable of achieving, amazing stuff. No one is incapable on this planet. Perhaps you have a difficulty or an obstacle in life, regardless what it is, but you always can get through. And this is exactly what I've been doing for 20 years. Just really trying to emphasize the power that every and every person on this planet have. And before I close, I would really like to tell you something. I genuinely believe that every person on this planet has a gift. Everybody. But it is your job to figure out what that gift is. And then it becomes your responsibility to really decide and to take that decision that whether you really want to work on that gift or not. Because that's what the world needs. The world needs more gifts, more people, people who are really committed into becoming better versions of themselves. And in my opinion, these are the effective ways on how to boost your efficiency and effectiveness while you're working from home. And you can reflect that on life. You can do it at work when you are working from home. You can do it when you are shopping, when you are doing your grocery list. It's as simple as that. Or when you are talking to people. Yeah, and thank you very much. And this brings us to the end of it. I really appreciate your attention and your time. And please feel free to ask whatever it is that you want, or contact us, and whatever we can help you with. That would be a pleasure. And thank you, Domus, for having me and for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Majd, for sharing all your positive ways to improve our work productivity.
Thank you.
We will now move on to some questions from our audience. Please use the chat box if you have any questions for Majd. So for our first question, Majd, as people are working from home, the line between work and life seems to be blurring. What recommendations would you give our audience to maintain a healthy work-life balance under these circumstances?
We talked about it, prioritize, but it doesn't really stop there. Prioritize and reprioritize often. When we talk about work life, it's a wide spectrum of things that are happening. And especially when we say life, you really have to be systematic. You really have to know what is it that you're gonna balance. You have work on one hand, and you have life. And when we talk about life, you really have to chunk it down, and you really have to put it like, okay, I have my social life, I have to see my friends or my family, my own time, I need to do this. Because your life cannot be one thing. It shouldn't be one thing. It's a set of things. Because if you really know the components here, and the same thing goes for work, if you really know the components, then you actually can know, when am I going to do this? How am I going to do it? What do I prioritize and what do I not prioritize, and so on. So be systematic in terms of understanding what your work life is all about and what your life is all about. And you really have to understand something, because that is going to help you on your journey on this planet as a human being. You always come first. Your work doesn't come first. Your family doesn't. You come first. If you're doing good, your work is going to do good. Your family is going to do good. Everything is going to be good. But if you're unhappy and you are feeling stressed out all the time, it's going to affect negatively your work and your life and so on. So you really have to focus on yourself. So being systematic is not only, okay, so work is about this, life is about this. No. Everything that happens in your life is called your life, so it is you. So you really have to be systematic in understanding yourself, working on yourself, because only then you will understand, well, this works for me, and this works for me, and both they work amazing for me, and this doesn't, and so on. And you really have to commit to the boundaries you set between, this fine line between work and life. They kind of, it's a gray area, and you really have to commit to the boundaries. You really have to learn how to say no, whether it is to fun times or to serious times, because you have the right also, to unwind. You really have to find the time to unwind and to relax and to take it easy on yourself. And because if you keep on pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, like we said, without taking breaks, where is that going to leave you? It's going to leave you exhausted, which is, again, it's like, this loop that you get stuck in. And, that's why also in life, or in work, or in general, in our journeys in life, why do we sometimes we have the same experience kind of keeps on perpetuating itself, different names, different places, and different ways, but it's kind of the same experience. It's because a lot of things are changing from the outside, but inside we're not changing. So you really have to focus on yourself. And whenever you go to work, whenever you leave work, whenever you go to your friends and family and your personal life, or you get out of it, remember you really have to empty your box. Empty your box. Don't take your home to the office, and don't take the office to the home. Yes, I get it. We're all responsible. We care about our jobs, and we get that kind of stress. But that stress is a mental decision that you decide, I'm going to be stressed, and I'm going to take that stress of my office to my family, or the other way around. So take it easy on yourself, and please do find time to love yourself, to be nice to yourself, to accept yourself. And if you ever do a mistake, please, it's the easiest thing, and you deserve it. Forgive yourself, for Christ's sake. I mean, it's the easiest thing you can do. Just forgive yourself and move on. You're doing something for the betterment. Perhaps it's what I'm gonna say is a bit too broad, but you're literally doing something for the betterment of all humankind because you are helping. Guys, you have no idea how important everybody is in this whole system. Everybody is important, so you really have to know that. So yeah, just reprioritize and prioritize. Have time for yourself and be nice to yourself. Yeah.
Thank you, Mash, for sharing all your useful insights. We will now conclude the question and answer session for Majd. But if you have any further questions for Majd, please feel free to email your question to events@domusgroup.ae. Just a reminder that Majd and our other speakers are also available for independent trainings for individuals or groups. So please get in touch with Domus Group using the same email address, events@domusgroup.ae, and they will help you to facilitate this. We still have time to facilitate a final Q&A session with all of our speakers, just to give the audience with a chance to ask a few more questions that were not able to be answered earlier. If you have any questions for our speakers, this is your chance. So please post it in the chat box and mention the name of the speaker so we can have one more round of questions and answers. So we have here a question for Vivien. Vivien, how would you mitigate the effects of lost connection from a key member during a critical moment?
That's very interesting. Okay. When Murphy laws comes, okay, the only way we can do is basically to sort of like do a lot of rehearsals, but like for example, internet. If your internet fails, okay, then you can also use things like you got to get ready your mobile data at the same time. This is a very common issue that's helped by a lot of virtual events. Primarily, you will find that just as about to event wants to start, and you realize that the Wi-Fi has issues. So in order to mitigate such issues, I would say that you have to have a lot of plan A, plan B, what happens. Then you also have a situation where halfway you do the event and there's no sound or it gets cut off. What we usually do is we'll put up a sign or where you can tell people that this is a live event. Should there be any issues, don't leave the organ. We'll mitigate it as soon as we can and let you, and continue the event ASAP, so that your audience itself will know that it's not an event that is cut off or it's completed abruptly, but they will wait for us, for the team at the background to actually make all the rectification that it can. Yeah. So these are some of the ways. There's one of the most common one is actually Wi-Fi. Yeah. So issues. Okay.
Thank you, Vivien, for sharing your knowledge with us. And over to our speakers. If you have any questions for each other, now's your chance to ask.
Vivien, hello, it's Chris.
Oh, hi, Chris.
Hi, I was just curious as to your system that you use for when developing virtual events. I think you mentioned that you have an ebook.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Happy to send to you.
Oh, thank you. I was just going to ask, because I'm always learning as you do in this world, and I'd love to know how you do what you do.
Well, we're in a knowledge sharing session, like what we're doing right now. I'm also learning a lot from what's his name? Sorry, I can't see my line. From Much, is that how you pronounce your names? A lot about productivity. I think that's something. Mason, I'm looking forward to see your platform. I love to actually analyze the background. And the awesome thing is that Domus is actually a very established organization. I'm sure you know the pains that our clients are facing, event organizers are facing, and like not all platforms, I'm sure Chris will agree, are designed for events, because the developers behind audio are actually people who saw a problem, but they are not the real people that is executing it. So they designed a platform that at the end of the day is not very intuitive, because they say, oh, this is the problem. That's the reason why you have so many event registration portals. But and only a few as what we know, and it's because people know only one Eventbrite. They think Eventbrite is the only one. So I'm actually looking forward to looking at your platform, and I'm sure it's going to be one that's going to be awesome.
It's an honor for us also to consult you on the platform once it is ready, and I'll share with you guys the demo once we have it ready and for your feedback.
Oh, okay, no worries. Yeah, happy to share from another point of view. Yeah.
Yeah, happy to help too.
Yes.
Thank you all for your questions. We will now conclude the final Q&A session. That was some extremely relevant and useful content from all of you. We'll now move on to our raffle draw. I will now pick the names of the lucky winners of our special prizes who will be randomly selected. So our first winner is Qaboos Khalid. And now for our second winner of the raffle, Suha Abdallah. And finally, our last winner of the raffle is Noura Al-Shamsi. Congratulations to all three of you. A member of our marketing team will soon be in touch with you by email to redeem your prize. So that concludes today's webinar. Thank you to all, Vivien Hoe, Chris Powell, Mason Abulhul, and Majd Adusta for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us today. And thank you all for joining us. Goodbye, everyone, and please stay safe.